more than 135 degrees and certificates at umgc.edu.
A frantic search for survivors continues in the Midwest after a devastating tornado outbreak leaves some neighborhoods in ruins. I'm Jon Scott, and this is a brand new hour of the Fox Report.
I would describe this as one of the worst storms, absolutely. The devastation is truly heartbreaking, and let's not forget people have lost their lives. We are continuing to make sure that we are identifying all those that are injured, in addition to the massive amount of property damage that has taken a huge toll.
That's the mayor of St. Louis describing the scale of destruction from last night's storms. At least 21 people are dead across Missouri and Kentucky, with tens of thousands still without power. And leaked audio of Joe Biden's interview with special counsel Robert Hur is raising new questions about whether Democrats and White House staff covered up Biden's cognitive decline while he was president. Some Republicans are now calling for a fact-finding commission. Meantime, the current President Trump is condemning former FBI Director James Comey for a controversial social media post, and the Secret Service is getting involved now. We begin with the latest on those deadly storms. Fox weather correspondent Katie Byrne is live in St. Louis, Missouri. Katie.
John, the mayor here says the city is mourning the lives of 5 people who were killed after last night's tornado. And when you look in some of the hardest hit neighborhoods, like where we are on the north side of the city, you're going to see house after house looks like this. It's just total devastation here. And people who live in these homes are essentially waiting to hear if they're totally condemned. The damage is widespread. We know at least 5,000 homes and businesses across the city of St. Louis have been impacted. You'll see roofs ripped off. Are on the roads and power lines down. Thousands of people still don't have power right now, and in some cases their belongings are just sitting outside, exposed to the elements, with their roofs and walls completely crumbled away. People who live here say the immediate needs right now are food, water, and tarps to cover their homes ahead of more rain this week.
This was very devastating to our community. We've never seen anything like this. It's always something that moves around us, but never exactly right here. And like I say, recovery is going to be long, hard, and I don't know exactly what we're going to do from here on out. Dumpsters need to be dropped and hands out here for help.
The National Weather Service had teams on the ground today surveying the damage. They say this was at least an EF3 tornado with winds as fast as 100 miles per hour, John.
And that video of the terrifying moment that thing popped out of the sky, absolutely frightening. Fox weather correspondent Katie Byrne. Katie, thank you. Let's bring in St. Louis Metropolitan Police Chief Robert Tracy. Chief Tracy, what's the big challenge right now?
Well, John, thank you for having me on and to talk about a tragic incident where we've had a tornado that touched down in our city of St. Louis, affected the whole city. But at the same time, it went from a 7-mile stretch and a quarter-mile wide, where winds up to 130 miles per hour, impacted about 5,000 structures and put out the lights for our city for about 100,000 residents. We are actually out there now. We did search and rescue throughout the night. With fire and rescue, and the biggest challenge is to make sure that we continue to get to the people that need us. They did a tremendous job throughout the night, the police, fire, rescue, and all the other city services. So where we're at right now is stabilizing the area, continue to expand the search, and make sure that we get to the people that need us most. 5 people are dead from this right now, and we have about 38 people injured. But the devastation is pretty bad in the city of St. Louis at this time. 5
people dead just in the city. How much have you searched? Are you fairly confident that number is not going to rise much more, or are there a lot of areas and a lot of houses left to check?
So we talked about 5,000 structures impacted, rescue dogs having search and rescue, over 1,000 firemen doing rescue with police officers. We were able to hit almost 4,000 homes, and we're going out and combing the area, and throughout the night, just making sure we're checking on individuals of any other homes. And we're expanding our search right now. But the critical area I talked about we have gone through, and we're expanding this right now because the eye of the storm that went through, we had to start there, and we've expanded. So we're going to go through the same structures again to make sure we didn't miss anything. But hopefully this number doesn't grow because of the amount of work that the men and women from the first responders have done. And we're going to continue to do. This is active, and we're going to go through the weekend doing this and then making sure that we get into everybody that needs to get to. And then we have to do all the services afterwards that everybody's coming together. It's an inspiration of how this city has come together, the community, the first responders, the elected officials. I mean, if you've seen them on the press conferences, you couldn't be more proud of the city and especially the community that's working with us to try to get through this.
Yeah, and hats off to your police officers and other first responders, many of whom are affected by this storm as well, and yet they're leaving their own homes to go out and try to help other people.
And you got to remember, John, too, is that although we have this one area, the rest of the city was impacted. And you know what? We in policing and with other first responders, we have all hands on deck. We make sure everybody's in. We got this area covered, but you can't forget about the rest of the city because lights are out, darkness is going to come. And then over 100,000 homes didn't have electricity. But Ameren and Spire Resources have returned electricity to about 5,400 homes. And now we're going to get with water, streets department, forestry. One of the biggest things, if you take a look at these old trees that have come down, very difficult to get through to make these rescues. But the rest of the resources in the city under this mayor's leadership and the governor's leadership, they did a tremendous job to get to where we are right now. But we got a long way to go.
Yeah, obviously, I mean, we're looking at the size of some of the trees that have come down, and that's what takes down so many of those power lines. How is the weather? I mean, if people are not going to have power and not going to have air conditioning, are they going to be suffering under the temperatures right now?
You know, we're already setting things. Urban League, which has all the resources that everybody's going to need for relocation, getting people out, making sure they have.
Okay, it appears that we have lost our connection to St. Louis Police Chief Robert Tracy, but you got the gist of what he had to say. Again, a very busy man today after those terrible tornadoes hit his city, and we thank him for his time and for the information today. Meantime, harrowing video shows 10 inmates making a break for freedom from a New Orleans jail early yesterday morning. Well, today the search continues for 7 of those escapees, many of whom are facing murder charges. Caroline Elliott has the latest on this manhunt. Caroline.
Yeah, John, we're told this is one of the biggest jailbreaks in U.S. history, and the search is not over. As of this afternoon, 7 of those inmates are still on the run, with the sheriff facing a lot of questions on how this could even happen. Surveillance video from inside the Orleans Justice Center shows an inmate tugging at the door around midnight Friday. Then just 1 hour later, 10 inmates were seen on video breaking out of the jail. The group then climbed a fence using blankets to avoid being cut by barbed wire, and shortly after, the inmates sprinted across a busy interstate around 1:20 a.m. According to the Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office, jail staff didn't even realize the inmates were missing until they did a routine head count that next morning. So the question now is, how did 10 inmates bust out of jail? Well, investigators say this is the exit point, a hole behind a toilet. It appears the bolts were removed and the steel bars were also cut, which led the Orleans Parish Sheriff to believe this was an inside job. The sheriff also facing questions now on why they waited hours to let the public know.
What does it say for jailhouse safety and security when you see a jailbreak like that, but you fail to notify anyone, NOPD, the public, anyone?
Let's be clear. I said what we observed on the video through the investigation. So yes, when they looked at the video this morning after the staff realized they were gone, my investigators found that at 1 a.m. that's what happened.
Since the escape, law enforcement has captured 3 of the inmates so far, and according to Louisiana State Police, they were transferred to a secure state facility, but 7 are still on the run this afternoon, and those missing include suspects charged with murder and other violent crimes. The Louisiana Attorney General posted on X saying, quote, "Someone clearly dropped the ball, and there's no excuse for this." Meantime, 3 employees with the sheriff's office have been suspended. John.
Caroline Elliott reporting live for us. Caroline, thank you. Well, a lot of friends and defenders of former President Biden are now under scrutiny after audio is leaked from the Biden 2023 interview with special counsel Robert Hur. Joe Concha reacts to the fallout and the mounting claims of a White House cover-up. Next. Immigrations and Customs Enforcement Detention Center are facing congressional discipline after that fracas. And after viewing video of the incident, House Speaker Mike Johnson says it appears his colleagues also broke the law.
I don't think that's speech and debate clause. I think that's in my view, as a former practicing attorney, it looked like a battery to me.
New Jersey Republican Congressman Jeff Van Drew serves on the House Judiciary Committee, and he is our guest now. Congressman, what did your fellow members of Congress accomplish by, storming the gates, if you will, at that facility?
Well, they accomplished being bad examples. You know, among the many things that we should be in Congress is a good example to young people, good example to Americans about how we are the purveyors of the rule of law. It doesn't mean you can't demonstrate. You can. Nobody wants to deny anyone their First Amendment rights. As a federal member of Congress, you can investigate. It doesn't mean that you are going to be violent, that you're going to be aggressive, that you're going to endanger yourself, others, and possibly the public because of what goes on there. It was a truly disappointing time. And John, that is why, as chairman of the subcommittee in Judiciary on Oversight, I am going to be chairing a hearing on Tuesday afternoon, we're going to discuss all this. We're going to break this open, really dig deep, and find out the truth.
That'll be quite a fascinating hearing. Perhaps, too, it is no great surprise that Nancy Pelosi thinks that there was some Republican misbehavior in all of this. Listen to the former Speaker of the House.
I know that the police were not supposed to be getting physical with them, members of Congress who have an oversight responsibility. If they weren't doing that, we'd say, why aren't they out there? They may have wanted to do a setup so that they could have an impact on the election in New Jersey. I don't put anything past them.
Do you have an answer for the former Speaker as to what transpired there?
I mean, I don't know. You know, you file that under, it's just hard to believe, you couldn't make it up. They are the ones who have promoted sanctuary cities, sanctuary states, which means that taxpayers have to pay for illegals, including criminals, that you're not going to abide by the rule of law, that you're not going to abide by federal law enforcement or cooperate with them, that they are the ones that are putting criminals, gang members, individuals who've committed rapes, individuals who have murdered, individuals who are dangerous back into the streets of America. Why in any way in God's world would you want those people in the United States of America? And it's a perverse thing with them. They actually are sending members of Congress, and one was a U.S. Senator, Chris Van Hollen, went to El Salvador trying to bring a dangerous individual back into the United States of America. I only wish, John, that they would worry about our American citizens who've been treated violently, who've been in danger, those that have been murdered, have been raped, have been disfigured, and just hurt for life. Gosh, I wish they would show them that care and consideration that they are showing to the illegal bastards who would hurt America and hurt our people and have hurt our people.
Yeah. The guy who took Nancy Pelosi's place essentially as the top Democrat in the House of Representatives is New York's Hakeem Jeffries. Chad Pergram talked to him, and Mr. Jeffries was able to say a lot of words without saying much of anything. Listen.
What happens if they were to go and arrest these members, or if they would try to sanction them here in the House of Representatives?
They'll find out.
What would you do, though? I mean, what recourse? I mean, but doesn't that broach a...
They'll find out.
Doesn't that go across...
That's a red line.
What's the red line, though? I mean, I know we have the speech...
It's a red line. It's very clear.
I'm not sure that it is very clear. Do you think that those members should be sanctioned by Congress?
First of all, I don't understand what he was saying there. What's the red line? What are you going to do? They broke the law. A member of Congress, more than anyone else, a congresswoman, a congresswoman should be obeying the law. And when they break the law, they should be treated no differently than anybody else would in America. Let me tell you, John, if you break the law or your staff breaks the law or just the average American citizen breaks the law, they get in trouble. We're not a third world country. We're not Haiti. This is the United States of America. Yeah. The rule of law always prevails. So I think something is going to happen. The first step is the hearing that we're going to have. I'm going to chair this thing, and I'm going to dig into it, and we're going to really find out what happened. And I think America is going to be disturbed.
New Jersey Republican Congressman Jeff Van Drew. Congressman will be watching that hearing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hundreds of state and local law enforcement agencies are teaming up with Immigrations and Customs Enforcement. The new task force model will allow deputies and federal agents to work together to try to track down and detain illegal immigrants with criminal histories or deportation orders. Our CB Cotton is live in our New York City newsroom with a closer look at that. CB.
Hey, John. Well, Bucks County, right outside of Philly, is now the latest in a growing list of communities across the country gearing up to work with the feds on immigration enforcement. But before any work's even been done in this community, there's already growing pushback, and the sheriff is now having to defend his decision, explaining to Fox News that the program will allow about a dozen of his deputies to receive specialized training from ICE on how to use a federal immigration database. Herron says his deputies will only use the database within the confines of the county's holding facility. He says that working with ICE will allow his team to check the legal status of those who are already in custody on existing criminal charges or those who are brought into custody on outstanding warrants.
If you get a criminal off the street today, that means tomorrow it's a guarantee. It's not a maybe. It's a 100% guarantee. Tomorrow there'll be one less victim in Bucks County. And that is what it's all about, preventing crime.
So the 287G task force model program has been gaining steam as the Trump administration tries to carry out its goal of mass deportations. You may remember Operation Tidal Wave in Florida late last month. It was a result of this program. Several state agencies there helped ICE agents sweep through communities to find illegal migrants with deportation orders or others with criminal histories. Get this, more than 1,100 people were arrested there in a single week. Now, how the partnership is carried out with the feds will look different in each community. Bucks County Sheriff Fred Herron has insisted his deputies will only be trained on paperwork and database access, but it hasn't stopped people in the community from voicing their opposition.
I strongly oppose the Sheriff's Office applying for any formal partnership with U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement.
No one's above the law, and you can't have the person pushing this policy into Bucks County or any county in America who's entirely lawless.
Pennsylvania's chapter of the ACLU is reportedly planning to sue, arguing that the sheriff did not have the sole authority to enter into this agreement with ICE. The sheriff telling us in part in a statement that his sheriff's office is in compliance with the law and attorneys are on standby to fight back against any potential litigation. Back to you, John.
All right, CB Cotton. Thank you, CB. Turning back now to that leaked audio from former President Biden's 2023 interview with Special Counsel Robert Hur. Top Democratic lawmakers, donors, and former White House staffers are facing more scrutiny after the tapes show Biden suffering memory lapses and slurring his words. Listen.
We are curious what you meant when you said, "I just found all the classified stuff downstairs."
I don't remember. I'm not supposed to speculate, right? So, correct. Okay, well, I don't remember, and it may have been, I just don't remember.
Wow. Let's bring in Fox News contributor Joe Concha. It's interesting, Joe. I heard one Democratic analyst who was being interviewed by Mike Emanuel out of Washington before this program began, say, this Biden thing, this is old news. Well, do you agree? Is it old news, the fact that the president couldn't remember things, halfway through his first term?
No, John, it's the biggest story, perhaps, of our lifetimes in terms of covering political media. Here we had a president who could not remember basic things, and he was in charge of the nuclear codes. Apparently, he only worked from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. based on this book that's coming out in terms of cabinet members talking about his capacity and the national security nightmare that this could have been. Means that this is not old news. This is something that deserves congressional hearings. I just don't think, John, that Democrats realize just how much this hurts an already broken and rudderless brand on the Democratic side. Can we just have one prominent Democrat, particularly those running for president in 2028, who will just say the right thing, the honest thing and the logical thing? And here's what we need to hear. A, Joe Biden should have dropped out in 2022 to allow for a proper primary process on the Democratic side. And B, we were wrong to literally install a candidate in Kamala Harris without one vote or input from any voters. This was a failed and, quite frankly, pathetic attempt of a cover-up. And if Democrats want the trust of the American people back, they'll admit that Biden was kept in power as a means to an end to defeat Donald Trump in 2024, even if it was hurting the country from all those perspectives we talked about: national security, integrity, standing in the world, you name it. And this is what's dominating the news cycle right now. Meanwhile, Donald Trump's having the best 2 weeks of his presidency, including his first term, in terms of securing all these trillions in manufacturing, AI jobs during that Middle East trip, a positive report on inflation that continues to drop, positive jobs report earlier this month, reached a trade deal with the UK, negotiated a trade deal with China, one's coming with India, apparently, ceasefire between India and Pakistan. Eden Alexander, the last American hostage, is coming home. Trump signs an executive order to slash drug prices. That's one hell of a 2 weeks compared to what Democrats are dealing with right now, which is defending the fact that they didn't realize that Joe Biden, his brain turned to applesauce. They all knew it, and they all look really, really, it's insulting for them to say, we didn't know anything, we didn't know this was happening. Of course they did, and now it's playing out in real time, a real problem for the Democratic Party, John.
And that list of accomplishments that you just mentioned attributed to President Trump, I mean, I don't think anybody questions that the president himself is behind all of those. Meantime, you have to wonder, and maybe I can ask you, Joe, who was actually running the country during the Biden administration?
That's a question all of us have, John. Who was running the country? We see this book by Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson with all these cabinet members coming forward saying that Joe Biden wasn't engaged. What we don't learn from this book, and if these authors truly had an interest in truth, they would pursue these cabinet members and say, okay, so who was running the country exactly? Who was signing all these executive orders? Who was in charge? And that is such a big deal. So for a Democrat to say this is old news, trust me, it is not. And the fact that we still don't know exactly who is running the country, whether that's Susan Rice, whether that's Barack Obama, Jill Biden, Hunter Biden, maybe we'll never know, but it's the biggest story of our lifetimes. And the fact that journalists are so not interested in covering this is a whole bowl of wrong.
And take it back even further. If you look at the 2020 elections on the Democratic side, Democrats were terrified that their nominee was going to be a socialist, Bernie Sanders. He was actually beating Joe Biden until the Democratic Party machine kind of decided, well, Joe Biden better be our nominee, and they managed to arrange that. And look what we got.
Yeah, I mean, John, look back at the results, right? Just numbers, forget opinion. In Iowa, Joe Biden finished 4th in that primary. In New Hampshire, he then finished 5th in that primary. And then suddenly the seas parted and all these candidates decided to just get out for whatever reason. We know the reason, because the Democratic power machine, like you talked about, told them to get out because they figured, okay, a former vice president who has some name recognition, who we could portray as a guy who's in the middle of the road, a moderate, he has the best chance of winning. Bernie Sanders, self-described Democratic socialist, has no chance of winning. Let's make sure that Joe Biden wins, just like they made sure that Hillary Clinton won in 2016, and just like they made sure that Joe Biden was ousted and Kamala Harris was the nominee in 2024. Democrats Democrats talk about saving democracy all the time, John, yet they keep squashing democracy in terms of who they put up as their nominee, where it's all a fixed fight. It's the WWE of political parties. And again, if they want the trust back of the American people, this may take a long time, if not forever.
Quick look at the controversy embroiling the current occupant of the White House. He's taking some criticism from a guy known as the boss. Here's what Bruce Springsteen had to say in Great Britain. Listen.
In my home, the America I love, the America I've written about, that has been a beacon of hope and liberty for 250 years, is currently in the hands of a corrupt, incompetent, and treasonous administration.
Given what we just said about Joe Biden, saying this administration is incompetent is a bit of a stretch. But what do you think about what Springsteen had to say there, Joe?
John, it's times like this where it really hurts to say that you're from New Jersey, but I'm here right now. Trust me. When you have clowns like Bruce yelling at his audience like he's, David Hogg's great-grandfather, dude, just play Jungle Land and Rosalita and shut the hell up otherwise. I mean, this is the same guy who was reportedly paid millions to perform for Kamala Harris when he could have just done a freebie. I mean, because when you're worth more than $1 billion like Bruce Springsteen, one would think that stopping Hitler would be on the house, but apparently not. So, yeah, I don't think it's news. I mean, Bruce Springsteen has been a guy who supported Democratic candidates for many, many years. But if I'm at his concerts, and I went to one in 2003 at Giant Stadium, it's now MetLife, I don't want to hear this. I just want to hear music. And if you want to have a little political statement, fine. This went on for a very long time. And I don't know, I guess aging rock stars lecturing about politics is not something that exactly is something I'd want to pay for at this point.
Especially when it happens overseas. It leaves a sour taste in the mouth. All right, Joe Concha. Joe, thanks.
John, you were born to run. Thank you.
Ha! Okay, I was a terrible runner. President Trump says he will try to President Trump setting a Monday phone call with President Putin of Russia to end the, quote, bloodbath in Eastern Europe. President Trump also will speak with President Zelensky of Ukraine and members of NATO as he hopes to broker a ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine. Madeline Rivera is live at the White House with the latest on those attempts. Madeline.
John, President Trump has been ramping up the pressure on Russian President Vladimir Putin to stop the attacks on Ukraine. He will get the chance to share those concerns directly to Putin on Monday. The president saying on Truth Social the subjects of the call on Monday will be stopping the, quote, bloodbath that is killing on average more than 5,000 Russian and Ukrainian soldiers a week, and trade. Putin skipped peace talks with Ukraine and Turkey this week. The president has said he does not think peace is possible without him meeting with Putin. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who's currently in Italy, spoke with Russia's foreign minister today. They talked about an end to the violence, but one GOP lawmaker has some sharp words regarding the president's relationship with Putin.
I don't understand why this president sees it so clearly, and he seems to have a moral blind spot when it comes to Putin, a man who's killed all of his adversaries, who's bombing cities every day, even though he's talking about having a truce and a ceasefire.
Speaking of violence, former FBI Director James Comey says he was not threatening President Trump when he posted this Instagram photo of shells arranged to form the numbers 8647. 86 can be used as slang for remove, and 47 in this case was seen as referring to Trump, the 47th president. Comey has since taken down that post and spoken with Secret Service.
I don't want to take a position on it because that's going to be up to Pam and all of the great people. I have Cash, I have Pam, I have great people. And I'm going to let them, because if I tell you something, they'll say, oh, I'm not going to get involved.
On the domestic front, the president is facing some setbacks after the Supreme Court extended a block on deportations under the Alien Enemies Act. And GOP hardliners on the House Budget Committee blocked his big, beautiful bill from advancing on Friday. They're voting again on it tomorrow. The president is calling on Republicans to unite, saying the party does not need grandstanders. John.
Madeline Rivera from the White House. Madeline, thanks.
You got it.
Well, the Supreme Court rules in favor of an appeal made by a group of Venezuelan migrants. They asked the justices to stop their deportations under the 1798 Alien Enemies Act. The court ruled 7-2 that those migrants did not have enough time to challenge their deportation orders in court. Let's bring in former Arizona Supreme Court Judge Andrew Gould. Your first thoughts about this ruling from the Supreme Court, which is not really final, correct?
It's not. Thank you for having me on, John. There's two issues here. The first is whether the court should be involved in this decision at all. Under the Alien Enemies Act, if there is a group that is associated with a foreign government or a foreign nation, and they've either been part of an invasion or a declared war, then the president has inherent authority to deport them. Think of it this way. If at the beginning of World War II, President Roosevelt wanted to deport a group of brown shirters that were associated, a gang associated with the Nazis, would we give them a hearing? We would not, because it's a political decision, and an invasion is a political decision as well. So in my view, the court shouldn't even be involved in this. The president has inherent authority to deport them. Second, the Supreme Court now for 2 months, John, has done nothing but make no decision at all. It keeps on jumping in this case. And to date, it still hasn't ruled whether the Alien Enemies Act is constitutional. It still hasn't ruled what the procedure is. And it keeps kicking it back down to the lower courts. And nobody knows how to handle these deportation procedures.
Yeah, here is part of that punting to the lower courts, as you call it, from the ruling from the Supreme Court. They write, "We did not on April 19th and do not now address the underlying merits of the parties' claims regarding the legality of removals under the Alien Enemies Act. We recognize the significance of the government's national security interests, as well as the necessity that such interests be pursued in a manner consistent with the Constitution. In light of the foregoing, lower courts should address AEA cases expeditiously." So let's say that happens. Let's say some lower courts make some AEA rulings. Is that going to finally kick it up to the Supreme Court for a final decision?
I guess so. You know, I served as an appellate judge and as a trial judge, and that ruling does nothing for that district court judge. I don't know what they're supposed to do with that. I guess the district court judge is on his own to figure out what the Alien Enemies Act means. They also told him to figure out what due process means. Although, to respect, John, that is their job. This is an issue the entire country is watching right now, and the United States Supreme Court should tell the country, is this constitutional and what is the procedure?
All right. Wish we could talk more, but we're running out of time. Judge Andrew Gould, thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Thank you.
Breaking news in Palm Springs, California. Police there are investigating an explosion outside a fertility clinic. Let's go to Christina Coleman, who's live in Los Angeles with more on that. Christina.
Hi, John. Yeah, definitely some chaotic moments in Palm Springs. Firefighters responded to an explosion that rocked an area in the city around 11 a.m. local time. The explosion reportedly happened near the American Reproductive Centers. On their website, they described the facility as Coachella Valley's first and only full-service fertility center and IVF lab. Despite damage to the fertility center, the Associated Press reports that the IVF lab and all the stored embryos were not harmed. The fertility clinic is near Desert Regional Medical Center. Now, we do not know what caused this explosion or whether there's been any fatalities or injuries. We have reached out to multiple law enforcement sources for more information on that. But what is clear is that there is significant property damage from this explosion. The U.S. Attorney for the Central District of California said, quote, "We are aware of the explosion that occurred this morning in Palm Springs. FBI is on the scene and will be investigating whether this was an intentional act. We will release as much information as possible once we are able to confirm details." And we do have a crew on the way, and we will continue to monitor this situation. John?
Just to be clear on the nomenclature here, Christina, because, you know, there's been violence directed against pro-life clinics in this country and protests at abortion clinics. But this is not one of those, apparently. This is an IVF, an in vitro fertilization clinic?
That's right. And as they mentioned on their website, Coachella Valley's first and only full-service fertility center and IVF lab. And as I noted there, despite the significant damage to this building, the AP reports the IVF lab and all the stored embryos were not harmed. So again, lots of law enforcement there. The FBI is going to be investigating. I mean, just take a look at it there. You see all that smoke, the plumes, the firefighters. We're going to have more information on this as it becomes available. We're going to continue to monitor this, but very disturbing indeed, John.
All right. Please do get back to us if you get more information. Christina Coleman, thanks. And more Fox Report in just a moment.
Muddy paws, dirty shoes, endless cleaning? Your floors never seem to stay clean. Now there's a simple solution. Meet Muddy Mat, the ultra-absorbent microfiber mat that traps dirt instantly. Engineered with thousands of advanced ultra-soft microfibers that are 5 times more absorbent than ordinary doormats. Muddy Mat doesn't just catch dirt, it locks it in. Whether it's mud, snow, sand, or water, every step on your new Muddy Mat leaves your floors spotless. And its reinforced rubber backing keeps it firmly in place. No more slipping or sliding. Perfect for your entryway, kitchen, bathroom, or even under your pet's food bowl, Muddy Mat absorbs up to 5 times more water. And when it's time for a cleanup, just toss it in the washing machine and it comes out looking as good as new.
Dog parents, this is a must-have.
My floors have never been so clean. I mean, both Ruby and Blue came in covered in mud, and this anti-mud mat left their paws sparkling.
I've got Muddy Mats all over the house. I even use one as a bath mat. It feels so good under my feet. It's so soft. Non-slip backing makes it safe too.
With multiple dogs, I've always struggled with having dirty paws on the floor, but with this mat, I can finally stop stressing out about it because there are no prints anywhere.
It's so soft and squishy. I've even found my puppy sleeping on the mat instead of his bed. They work so well, I bought 3 more so I could put them all over my house.
You just place the Muddy Mat in front of the door and you'll save up so much time cleaning the floors. Go get one. Thank me later.
Imagine the relief of coming home to clean floors every day. Call the number on the screen or visit trymuddymat.com or simply scan the QR code right now to claim an incredible 70% off and get your free Muddy Mat today. But hurry, this exclusive offer is available only for a limited time. Once they are gone, they are gone. Don't let dirt dictate your day. Join thousands of satisfied customers who have already transformed their homes with Muddy Mat. Act now. Clean floors, happy home.
Call 1-800-503-8906.
Fighting for criminal justice reform. Alice Johnson and Savannah Chrisley sound off. Plus, Dave Portnoy and the dogs that changed his life. All on My View with Laura Trump.
Meet Omnilux Contour, an LED light therapy mask clinically proven to reduce fine lines and wrinkles. Find out how you can improve your skin at OmniluxLED.com.
I'm a dog, and since my owners got me a Spot Pet insurance plan, they're getting cash back on covered vet bills. Good boys like us rack up some bad vet bills, but Spot plans help my owners focus on our care, not the cost. Choose Spot. Customizable pet plans you both will love.
Do you need a memory boost? Are you tired of reaching for names and words during conversations? Trust me, you're not alone. That's why we developed Doctor's Preferred Mindful Advantage, the cutting-edge, science-backed brain health supplement that will help keep your mental edge sharp.
To get your complimentary sample of Mindful Advantage, just text SEAT to 215-215.
I'm not forgetting words. Mindful Advantage helps you think faster by targeting 5 areas of brain function: attention, learning and memory, language, motor function, and even mood, with 5 key brain-boosting ingredients backed by 5 clinical studies.
It makes me feel focused and sharp.
I feel more like I felt years ago.
To get your complimentary sample of Mindful Advantage, just text SEAT to 215-215. Text now and we'll send you a bottle of Doctor's Preferred Magnesium absolutely free. Mindful Advantage is not available in stores, so text SEAT to 215-215 now.
I'm Rob Lowe, and I host a game show where a trivia battle can earn contestants big bucks. It is do or die.
I'm Greg Gutfeld, and I host a game show where I cut people off from the world for 90 days and have them guess what happened while they were gone.
Is that legal?
I have no idea.
The Floor, hosted by Rob Lowe. A new season coming this fall on Fox. And Greg Gutfeld's What Did I Miss? Streaming now on Fox Nation.
A scary crash at the Indianapolis Speedway where drivers are gearing up for the good old Indy 500. Kiffin Simpson was coming around a final turn during the practice run. He lost control of his car, slammed into the wall, and then went airborne before finally coming to a stop. Thankfully, Simpson is okay. He said he felt something wasn't right with his car, and he'll try to figure out what went wrong, and they'll put it all back together before the big race on May 25th. Scary Movie is set to return to theaters next year. Some fans are afraid that the next installment of the franchise might go woke. But in an interview with Fox News Digital, actor and comedian Marlon Wayans, who was in the first two Scary Movie films, says there is no reason to fear.
You have to pull from woke because that means you're aware, right? And you have to be an equal opportunity offender, and you got to be, you got to explore both sides. So for us, I'm not taking a side, I'm taking a side of comedy.
Good for him. Tomorrow on Sunday Morning Futures, Maria Bartiromo has an exclusive interview with FBI Director Kash Patel and Deputy Director Dan Bongino. They spoke about how they're shaking up the top levels of the Bureau, claiming the former FBI brass failed to keep Americans safe.
The FBI's prior leadership left us an institution, that is, a police force for America and the world, that allowed a fentanyl overdose to occur and kill an American citizen every 7 minutes. That prior FBI's leadership, Comey, McCabe, left us an FBI that allowed for a woman or child to be raped every 6.5 minutes in this country. That same leadership structure left us an FBI that permitted a man or woman to be killed twice an hour in this country.
You can see the full interview. It airs tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern, right here on Fox News Channel. And that's how Fox reports on this Saturday, the 17th of May, 2025. I'm Jon Scott. Thanks very much for watching. We'll be back here again tomorrow. Hope to see you then.
I cut quite a figure, don't I? By all means.
Prepare for battle.
That way. His faces need mashing. One step at a time. I'll sort this out. You don't say. Oi, one step at a time.
30 seconds to battle.
Time for a good scrap. Here we go. Yes. Yes. Indeed.
The battle begins.
Oh, now we're in it. I'll sort this. I'll sort this. I'll sort this out. These faces need mashing. By all means.